Welcome to our exploration of democracy, an idea that has shaped nations, empowered citizens, and transformed societies.
But what exactly is a democracy? At its core, it's about people having a voice, an opportunity to participate in the decisions that affect their lives.
In today's world, democracy is more crucial than ever. It empowers us to stand up for our rights, advocate for change, and hold our leaders accountable.
Join us as we delve into the challenges and triumphs of democracy around the globe. Together, let's discover how we can all contribute to a higher and more equitable future.
How have key historical events shaped our current understanding of democracy in America?
So I think how key events have shaped our historical democracy in America is it kind of just starts back at the 13 colonies when we were founded after breaking away from Great Britain and other stuff like that and their tyranny over us with taxes and whatever.
We look at events like the French Revolution. We look at thinkers during the Enlightenment that came up with some of these other ideas about government and that came up with this social contract that then our founding fathers in the 1700s utilized and created to basically develop what we have as our foundation today.
And I feel like that just kind of solidified us as a democracy and a force for good in the world. And after we've gone through all those wars and stuff like that, Vietnam and whatever, trying to keep the world in democracy, it just kind of solidifies our mission as a country as well as what we stand for as a nation.
So I think a lot of times people get complacent and they don't worry because things are going fine, so they don't necessarily take an active role in what's going on. And then when certain things happen, they resonate with people and it makes them re-engage or realize that their vote does matter and that they're an important part of our society.
Compared to democratic systems in other countries, and what can we learn from their successes and failures?
We have a lot of rights in America that I think we are seeing many immigrants come to our country for a variety of reasons, but I think one of them is to get more of the rights and freedoms our country has.
So when you look at a comparative politics, other countries and globally around the world, how these countries vote, I feel that probably the most important thing is that we have choice. We are able to go out and vote for whomever we want, and if we don't want to vote, we don't have to vote. Nobody is forcing us to do so.
I think that when we look at voting rights and the history of it throughout history, we see how minority groups, we see how women didn't get the access to vote till about 100 years ago. And I think that's important because when you have so many people in our country, you want to push for as many voices to be heard in a democracy to really have the full effect there. And so I think when we compare, I tell my students to look at other countries around the world where women don't have the access to vote, where other minority or religious groups don't have the access to vote. I think it's important that we look at taking advantage and helping students make that decision to register. I always tell students, I don't care if you register as a Republican or Democrat, that doesn't matter to me, but I really do encourage them to, when they turn 18, to register and then get a chance to go out and vote and make their informed decisions.
Education's role. How important do you think education is, and what can schools do to improve?
Well, I think that education is the most important part of a proper voter. You cannot have a well-informed voter without having an educated voter.
I think that civics is a very important class that all students throughout their high school career should be encouraged to, again, dive into because, again, you can look up any fact about a historical battle or a key person in history, but to understand how the government and the country that you're in are functioning, that's something that you need to make informed decisions of for the rest of your life.
How has the evolution of media, including social media, impacted American democratic processes and public discourse?
Media has been a very negative and positive influence. It's very polarized. You can either have the most obvious propaganda being pushed in your face, like the TikTok accounts of both of our presidential candidates. That is the most propaganda I have ever seen.
I think media influence is, I don't know, it's one of the biggest problems nowadays because you take lots of other companies' bias and more of a business approach to politics when you take big corporations, you got Fox News and you got CNN News, both back different parties, but it influences people a lot, especially people more older people or people more likely to be involved in conversation about politics.
We're just seeing gun control, we're seeing freedom of speech, we're seeing abortion, we're seeing all these big problems that are being turned into buzzwords by the media. We're seeing that we're no longer voting about who we really think's best. We're voting about who's most popular, who we see associated with more of the buzzwords that we like or don't like.
It's also given rise to a lot of spam and hate, which can a lot of the time negatively influence people in, okay, well now I'm not going to share my opinion because every time I do, I just get hated on for it. So it's kind of a double-sided coin there of you need to be able to balance the good and the bad.
What role do you believe civic engagement plays in maintaining a healthy democracy, especially among younger generations?
I think civic engagement is the single most important thing that we need to teach our younger generations, that they need to be involved, they need to care, they need to understand, because if they don't, then things just fade away. If you're not active and you're not participating and you're not aware of what your rights are, it's very easy to forget that you have those rights.
Based on historical trends, what do you foresee as the future of American democracy? Are you optimistic or pessimistic about its trajectory?
So based on what I've seen about like past elections, stuff like that, like what's happened in America before, I'm actually pretty pessimistic about like what's going to happen because I feel like we're headed in like a really bad direction.
So I am very much an optimistic person, a very much the glass is half full kind of gal. And I think that watching kids every day, teaching them every day, I see that their concern is there. They care about government and how it influences and impacts them.
The candidates this time are like throwing out accusations that like each other like are gonna somehow destroy the country, make it worse, make the entire country a dictatorship, and like stuff like that does not help the American people. Because if you're supposed to pick a candidate and the other one says that candidate's bad, and the other one says that other candidate's bad, what's the purpose of an election in the first place if each candidate can't decide who's better for the country?